Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about The Handmaid's Tale, Season 1, Episode 2. It's called Birthday. Full spoilers for the episode as always. Can I just point out how hard it is to accent the fact that I'm saying birth and day as two separate words and not as birthday? It takes a lot of
Yeah,
effort.
I imagine it does because you just never say it that way, do you?
Nah, you say birthday, but I had to really think about that. As simple as that sounded, I had to really think about putting in the pause because you
Mm.
naturally just want to steam through it. But here we are. This is episode 2. We liked episode 1 a lot. In this episode, I think first and foremost, it expanded the mythology of how things happened, and by what that I mean, we get a good sense in this one of how this whole thing wasn't overnight. Like even when uh, Offred was giving birth, like the seeds were already there. The epidemic, the chance of like the birth rate going down and plummeting, the fact that we saw people outside the hospital praying for the births to go through and all that. Like it gave you a sense that this hysteria was building for years
Yes.
until it hit, until the power that came into power put all this into motion and enacted all this crazy dystopian bollocks that we're seeing.
Yeah, pretty
So
much.
I like that. I like that it's world building. I like that it's like establishing how this world functions slowly, bit by bit. It's really building it as we go.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah.
of course, I say that in episode 2. Episode 3 could give us nothing, but in that sense. But so far it is, and even last episode we saw that a priest was hung, and then in this episode we see them tearing down a church, and they mention other churches being torn down and being just decimated. And the idea of, even though they seem very religious, it seems like the idea of religion's completely shifted to a new.
Yeah, I think that is very interesting because, like I say, they do seem very religious. I mean, they're even in the ceremony in this, the birthing ceremony, they're all there praying.
Yeah, even in the last episode when we first meet the Martha, and Offred says, "Oh, they like to go." The part of this whole thing is to return to old-fashioned values, which would make, I think, to most people, you would assume that religion would play a role in that.
Yeah,
But
it's clearly a religion, but it's certainly not Christianity, which is what we at least that's what they're showing us at the minute.
yeah, I think it's no religion we currently know.
No, it's some new variation upon that because it's definitely a hodgepodge of a mixture of things by the look of it.
Yeah. So no, I think that's did a lot of world building. Obviously, we've seen the flashbacks that little Hannah, Offred's kid, was almost kidnapped. In fact, the nurse. They did a really smart thing here. Actually, we got a scene with the nurse where she's like telling, "Oh, the baby's okay. We've tested it, made sure it's because obviously at this point in this world, it's actually only a 1 in 5 chance that the babies will be healthy when they're born."
Yeah, like,
So
and we see the room where it's like where they should be, and it's like
which is a really moving scene actually when she goes into this, the nursery where all these newborn babies are meant to be, and it's empty
yeah,
because 2 of them are in intensive care and the others are dead. It's just this really haunting kind of image of her walking through here and realizing how lucky she is that her baby's not.
yeah,
But no, like, so we see this nurse give her this good news, and like see her be kind to her, be kind to the baby. So later on, we just get a glimpse of her lying on the floor with her head bashed in, and how one of the other mothers who have lost their child has done this to try and kidnap the kid. It shows you just how. I think again I don't want to always compare it back to like Nazism, but just because I studied like the rise of Hitler and the Nazis in school and how you had these incidents building up and boiling up until these political powers were able to take control. It reminds me kind of that of this is like just one such incident and the build up of all
yeah.
this.
It's the desperation
Yeah,
of the ordinary people that allows these things to happen.
yeah. So I thought that was well handled. Obviously, the other stuff that it builds on, of course, the next bit of the mythology is what happens when someone is born in this world.
Mm.
We get to see that. Janine from the last episode with the one eye, we seen she was pregnant, heavily pregnant. She had a big old preggy belly, and she's giving birth in this episode. Hence the title, Birthday. See, I did it again. I had to think about it and put the pause in. And we see this ceremony that not only includes all the local handmaids from this district, this town, however they close it off. It also involves all the other sort of rich wives who come and are also part of the ceremony. And
Yeah,
I thought it was really interesting because we see that all of the wives go through a fake thing with the wife of the woman who's giving birth. Her handmaid's giving birth, so the real wife, who's going to be the mother, is like going through this fake kind of practice her breathing, and they're all around her. And then later on, she steps behind like Janine as she's giving birth, and also emulates the breathing and the pushing. And
Yeah.
for a second, it took me to. I was like, "What the hell's going on here? Why is she behind her? Are they both giving birth? Like, this is weird."
Yeah, for a second it was like that, and then it's like, get it.
They're faking it. But maybe because I'm a cynical prick, but I'm like, this is pointless. You're achieving nothing by standing next behind her, and
They're not, but it's the ritual of it, isn't it?
rituals are stupid. Rituals like this are stupid.
Look, we have just established that some form of religion is very important in this world. And religion, a lot of them are built on very specific rituals. So, it makes sense.
Yeah, but how many religions are this new? Like, this is a new thing. So you're showing me we do this for these beliefs, and I'm like, but you didn't do that before. And like, it's all new, so it just feels silly.
It is. It's a way of having them feel involved, isn't it? It's so that they can still think that they're in on it. And
We
it's
talked about it in the
part
last
of it.
episode how
Yeah.
so much of it was to try and make the wife feel like she still had power, like she was still a part of the process, when she really isn't. It's all just kind of a fallacy to make her feel that way. And obviously this whole thing's kind of horrific as well, because they take the baby away immediately. It's a healthy baby, take it away, give it to the mother, and she names it, and Janine has to watch her baby be taken away and be named by another person in front of her. And then all the handmaids kind of like come together and sort of comfort her in this scene. But it's this horrific thing of it being taken away immediately and given to the other person. Which of course is then sort of beaten over your head a little bit more with the scene later when she's breastfeeding and she's left alone with the baby, and she finally, it's almost like for the first time we really, well, we got it in the flashback obviously when she was herself, and that's how she lost her eye, because she was being herself and she was being rebellious, but this is the first time since then we got to see her be herself, and she talks about her son and how that's your brother and this is his name, and yeah, so it gives you this whole thing. The other big part of all this scene where they go to this big house, presumably the house of the family that are having this child, is this scene where Offred's offered a cookie
Yes, by one of the other wives.
by one of the other wives, who's like, "Oh, go on, give her one won't hurt her," and they're like, "Oh, you shouldn't give them, it's bad for them."
She seemed relatively nice.
Yeah, relatively nice. It reminded me of like watching 12 Years a Slave, and you had the one slaver who was was kinder to them.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it reminded me of.
Yeah, like she's still like, way above them in the social class and has the power, but it wasn't I don't think from her perspective at least it wasn't a dick move. She was sincerely offering a nice
That's what
thing.
I'm thinking of Cumberbatch's character in 12 Years a Slave. How he's nice to the slaves when he's still a slaver. He's still part of the problem because he's part of the system.
Yeah.
But yeah. She goes to that, and then Joy reluctantly is like, "Well, would you like one?" And she hates her. She hates her guts. She doesn't want her to have a cookie.
You can look at her and she's like, "This is a trap." It's like, if I take it, you see, it's like a trap. It's like she knows that Joy doesn't want her to have it, but she has to offer now because it's been brought up.
But what I like about the scene though is she holds it out and says, "Well, here it is," and she's basically talking to her like she's a dog. It's not even a child at this point. It's like a dog who has been offered a treat.
Honestly, for a half a second, I thought she was like implying that she had to just lean in and take it with her mouth out of her hand.
And then the one who was being nice says, "Oh, she's so well behaved," as she takes like a bite of her cookie. And it's like, oh my, it's so horrific. But then Offred goes into the bathroom and she spits out what she's eaten. And she gives this little defiant smile into the mirror, like, "I'm not taking their pity. I'm not taking that. I'm this strong, at least I can make this choice for myself."
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's but so the other sort of intrigue that's building throughout the episode is Nick the mechanic comes to Offred and says that the commander wants to see her alone at 9 p.m. that night. And this is unusual because they're not supposed to see the handmaids themselves, like by them on their own as just two of them. So it leads to a lot of questions, and we know they had a handmaid before this, and she was let go for some reason.
Yeah.
And I think it's Offglen that speculates maybe that's what happened, this happened before, or maybe in her narration. Either way, it's speculated, and she asks Offglen about it. Offglen says, "Oh," and that's the other thing, Offglen's like, "Oh, there's a network of us, join us, try and find out where your commander's going, what's going on." And
like we speculated, some sort of resistance is forming.
Joe, I liked about that. I liked her narration after that. She talks about how there's only an us now because there's a them. Like, there wasn't really a separate group. We were all one people before, but now there's an us and a them. Because they became a thing, we have to become a thing that's opposing it.
Yes.
And she drops some other tidbits like the US flag now only has 2 stars on it,
Yeah.
which is like, so there's like 2 states that are resisting. Is that like, is Florida one of them? Is that why the fighting's going well in Florida? Because they got the oranges. They're winning. I
Would
don't know.
make sense.
It's curious. It's curious. But yeah, so she's trying to figure out stuff. She's like, oh, I don't know why, and she speculates, oh, maybe he just wants a blowjob, and it's kind of like, oh, maybe they try and get little extra things. They're not meant to, but it's them that's breaking the rules. But the whole time in the back of my head, I'm thinking, but the way this society's been built up and the way we've seen them being trained, if they're caught doing anything, it will be offered who's blamed for it. She'll be the slut, quote unquote, that has lured him in. It won't be his fault, which has its own bag of worms to unpack. But that's clearly how they've been conditioned, and it's how it'll be taken. So she's panicking, she's worried. Is this her leading to her demise? And I love that as she's walking to the door, she's talking about girls in horror movies who go to the basement and they think it's their boyfriend playing it. That speaks to me specifically because I watch a lot of horror movies. So as she's describing this, I can think of at least 10 scenes in my head of this happening.
Yeah. I was like, she mentions that this is like his private room that no women go in. Even his wife doesn't go in this room.
And we see in the last episode, she didn't even get let in there. He was going for his meeting and she's like, no, I'll see you at dinner, honey. And he shuts the door. So really cold, really whatever. And she goes in and she's not supposed to look at anything. She's sort of like getting a glimpse of like the books on the side and she's not seeing anything. Again, camera stays close to her. We don't get to see much ourselves.
Yeah.
We sort of get only stuff. It's either straight up in her face or we see her point of view, kind of low angle.
Yeah, from
down.
what we can see, it just looks like a reasonably poshish study.
Yeah, it's a study with books and stuff. He's got a big desk. He's got some comfy chairs for whatever. As it turns out, a game of Scrabble.
As you do.
As you do. And so he sits down and he's like, you can look at me. We can bend the rules a little bit in here, as if this is his place. He makes the rules domain, in here. Yeah. It doesn't matter what the official rules are. In here, I make the rules. And he's like, this might sound a bit silly, but I want to play a game. And he pulls out a board, and it's Scrabble. And everything about this is very slow paced. I kind of like this. There's like an awkwardness to everything where he asks her to like move or sit down or do something, and she almost takes just a little bit too long to where I thought he was going to snap and get angry at her for not doing it quick enough.
Yeah.
Because she takes a bit to realise what she's doing. She gets up and she shuffles over and whatever. But they sit down, they play Scrabble, and of course when she takes out her letters, the word nanny is in her just a random set on her letters. And then they play the game. There's a little montage of them playing, and at the end we find out that he beats her by a few points. They're both at 300 and something. It's very close.
Yeah, I think there's like 3 points that he wins by.
It was a competitive game, by the sounds of it. And he almost looked pleased with that. Like, not just because he won, because even though she has narration afterwards where she says she let him win, I do think there's like, for him, I think there's she's not just some fool who's following orders, she is actually quite smart.
Yeah, this was like a test on his part to see, if she was just someone who just follows it and does everything blindly, or if she can think for herself. Because that's essentially what this is. She has to think of the words for herself. Yeah,
well, this is the whole thing that I think the scene's getting at, is that we start the episode with another sex scene, and I use the term sex loosely, of them trying to get her pregnant, with Joy holding her down and him looking kind of awkward as he's thrusting about, and it even looks kind of awkward at one point. He kind of shifts to the side, and there's a lot of awkwardness in the scene. But to me, this was he is struggling to even perform because there's no attraction, there's nothing in there. It's all clinical. And this was almost like him trying to build a bond, because if she's smarter, if he can connect to her in some way, he'll actually sexually be more into it when he's supposed to perform. And that's what I was getting from it. And where'd you go?
So I think it's worth noting that is a problem we've heard of as well. I think it was last episode, one of the other ones mentioned how her commander, whatever it was, couldn't get it up.
It's almost like the natural act of falling in love and having sex, or even love, but just consensuous sex is a core part of what makes it work.
Yes, it's like even these people who are, the ones on the other side, they're aware that they're not quite comfortable with it either.
Yeah. So, other fascinating things about this scene, though, there's a lot packed in here. So she asks a question, because he mentions, we'll have to do it again sometime. I'll have to give you a rematch because it was so close. And she says, I'll need to check my schedule. And this for me was a big line, because I don't think that before now she has ever even attempted to crack what I would consider a joke.
Yeah.
This was her
Not at
cracking
all.
a joke with him. This was a sign of her feeling slightly more comfortable in this room with him.
Definitely.
If not even comfortable, I'd almost argue even powerful.
Yeah.
Like she's aware of like a slither of power here. She has some kind of power over him almost.
Yeah, she's very aware of the unique nature that she's in and how,
Yeah.
privileged she is to be the only woman to get in the room.
And after she cracks that joke, and he does give a little snicker, he lets the joke go, and even enjoys it to an extent.
Yeah, he doesn't criticize her. He allows her to have it.
Yeah, that's when she feels the confidence to, when he says that he's leaving for a couple of weeks or a week or whatever. She says, "Oh, where are you going?" Just casually, like you would do. But this is inappropriate. She shouldn't be asking questions. And he's like, "Oh, it's just boring meetings in New York. Nothing exciting."
I think it was DC, but
Whatever. Pick your say.
I'm just saying that might be important later on.
Okay, later on, but right now I don't think it's a huge deal. But no, so that was like a big thing, and then when she says, "Okay, but when you get back," then he says, "Okay, it's a date."
Yeah.
Very specific word. Whoever wrote this episode chose that word, or maybe it's in the book, whatever. But that word is very specifically chosen. I mean, because you can say that with anyone. Yeah? Like we could arrange to go to the movies and then just casually in a sentence say, "Oh, it's a date," and it doesn't mean that it's a date. It just it's just, oh, it's a planned event. But that word in this context clearly has a connotation. It clearly has an underpinning of the meaning that says something to her, and she's told to go back home, which I thought was also an interesting choice of word because it's the same house. But
yeah, it's how segregated they are, isn't it? They don't even consider it her home.
But we get the slow walk back up the stairs, and she's sneaking back up. We get the whole way. She gets behind the door, and she starts breaking down in a laugh, not in a cry, in a laugh.
Yeah.
Like, because, and I almost wonder if she enjoyed the game of Scrabble. Like, when was the last time she got to have some fun and play a game of Scrabble?
I think she probably did. I mean, I'm sure it was always in the back of her mind, like, this is weird, this is wrong, and
yeah, but especially
how uncomfortable she was. But
earlier in the episode, we found out that she used to, I can't remember the exact job title, but she worked with books. She was like a publication at a library or something like that.
Yeah.
She was talking about, and how she once checked like 12 volumes of falconing.
Yeah.
And they have this little joke, her and Offglen, about, oh, that sounds quite exciting right about now, and she's like, yeah, it does. And that just shows you how devoid of like fun and anything.
Yeah, like the implication that they don't have books or anything like that. There is no sources of entertainment. We know we can't even read the news.
Yeah. So she probably enjoyed it in that sense. But of course, mid laugh, it cuts to the next scene, and the song from Breakfast Club, Don't Forget About Me, kicks in.
It's a great song.
Full blast, really loud.
And I was not expecting this sort of song in this show at all. It really threw me for a second.
Honestly, it's kind of similar to the music in the end credits from the first episode, which I actually thought felt a little bit out of place.
Yeah, but it was because it was the end credits. I didn't think too much of it because it was separate.
This one, on the other hand, though, I thought worked a lot because it worked because she felt like she'd succeeded. She felt like, at the end of that movie, walking out and putting the fist up. That's what she, even though she wasn't showing it to anyone, like she had to have her head down, got it going on, and we hear her thinking about Nick. Oh, does he care? Does he care that I may have done something in there with him? I think he does, and she feels like, oh, I've got some power here. Like, not, and power is obviously, I'm using that term kind of in a sort of muted sense, but she doesn't feel as completely 100% helpless as she did before. So this song of triumph is kicking in as she's making the same walk. We've seen her do it in episode 1. This exact same walk down, out to the gate. But she feels empowered here, and that's why the song's blaring.
She's proud because she's got information that she can tell Offglen. Like, she can say he's going away.
But of course, just when you think something's happy, just when you think there's a reason to have hope, something bad has to happen to crush her.
I knew it was coming as soon as the shot, because it was framed so specifically, hiding the face. It's like,
look,
now,
to be fair though, that's how they've presented her at the gate every single time.
They have, and that's the thing, obviously. But it was with the music as well. When you've got that playing, and then she's hiding the face like this, it's like, this isn't her.
She turns around and it's someone else, and the music comes to a screeching halt.
Yes,
screeching halt. I was almost expecting a record scratch just as it, just to accent it even more. Maybe that would have been too over the top. But this other woman, and she says the whatever their phrase is when they say, and then she's like, "Oh, praise be under his eye," whatever the order is of the phrases they say.
Let's go get some fruit.
Yeah, and then she says, "Oh, we've been gifted nice weather." I was like, "Oh yes, I am grateful for it." They say the exact same. The thing we saw her with Offglen in the first episode, when she still hated her for being a little shit, the exact same phrasing. And then she musters up the courage to ask, "Oh, did Offglen get transferred so soon?" And then the other woman's like, "I am Offglen." And then we just hear the narration drop an F-bomb, and then we cut to credits, and then the music kicks back in. We talked about this obviously in the last episode about the levity in her narration. Do you know what I really like about it now that I've had 2 episodes with it, and I've really, especially this ending, because her saying "oh f" at the end of the episode, it gives it this comedic. It's a dark ending, but it's this comedic punchline to it. What I like about it is that unlike some other, and this isn't necessarily the wrong portrayal and other stuff, but sometimes in these dystopian shows or depression shows or depressing movies about heavy subjects where they're tackling heavy things, everything's very dour and depressing and all the rest of it. What I like her about her having like a kind of sense of humour in her head is that it makes her actually feel like more like a real person.
Yeah, it's like it's a coping mechanism, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's why we do it, obviously, as human beings. But I just mean, I feel like in a lot of ways this would be presented as completely straight and dour, as completely, and everyone would always be so moody, and it would always be. But having her like say funny things in her head, having her do stuff like that, to me makes her feel like more like a real person. It makes her feel like more like a person than a character.
I agree, absolutely. I like to think that the song was playing inside her head, actually, the way it was presented, and because it felt different to the typical score. It felt like more like the narration. Yeah, and then when it stopped, as she realised, it's just like, okay. Maybe it completely ruins her mood.
I wonder if this might go away once we get more songs and we can link them to movies or whatever. But I almost wonder if the reason why the song plays, and if you're with the argument that it's her thinking about it in her head, is because she has seen The Breakfast Club and she likes that movie.
It's very plausible.
Like if all the songs come from movies that are pre a certain date, I'd imagine, like stuff that she maybe grew up watching, kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't think it needs to be that old either, because I think when we saw the the history stuff last episode, it was 2015, I think. Obviously, when we saw the flashback stuff, she mentioned Uber, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, the chart that said 2015, and that seems to be when it started to happen. Yeah. So you presume she gave birth maybe a few years after that, maybe 5 years, something like that, and then we're another like couple of years since then, maybe, because obviously Janine's been pregnant for 9 months at the very least, so it's been a year.
Yes.
So at the very least, about a year since then. But yeah.
Well, I mean, we saw her kid in the start of the first episode, so that kind of ballparks it.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, the kid was about 5 years old, and because she said it'd be about 8, she'd be about 8 now.
Yeah.
So she was about 5 then. So maybe it's been about 3 years since she'd been initiated. And
yeah. So maybe it's about 2025-ish, maybe.
Maybe slightly later.
Maybe slightly later. Yeah.
It depends how soon after 2015 her giving birth is.
That is true.
We don't know what that time period is. I imagine it's not by much, but maybe a few years.
I'm saying give or take around there.
Yeah. I'd say 2025 to 2030. That'd be my...
Sounds reasonable.
My guess. But no, that was all the big moments in the episode. It all kind of revolved around 2 or 3 key things. But the flashbacks, we had the birthday, and we had the Scrabble meeting, and everything kind of revolved around those elements.
Yeah, it was very focused, and I think there's always a danger with this style of TV where it leans so much into being serialized that it forgets that it has to function as an episode.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I see it a lot with some of the Netflix shows.
Definitely.
Yeah. Whereas this has a clear start and end point with this is what this episode is. This is the story of this episode. These are what we're going to focus on. And it just told that very, very concisely.
Yep. I'm still on board. If anything, I'm more positive than I was after episode 1. And obviously the first 3 episodes went up. Episode 3, our review of that will be up sometime tomorrow. But I have heard from people who have watched all 3 that that's their favourite of the 3. So,
interesting.
So I'm looking forward to it. So let us know what you thought of episode 2 in the comments below. like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on Twitter at mild_fuzz for channel updates. Individual Twitters are on the screen. But that's us, guys, so thank you very much for watching once again. Have you got any vanilla?